NEC reappoints Gari Baki as police commissioner. Increased alcohol-related problems in Manus despite liquor ban. And Basil campaigns for candidates in the Pomio by-election.
This is National EMTV News with Tokana Hasavi.
A very good evening to you and welcome to Thursday's news. Concerns have escalated regarding the effectiveness of a liquor ban imposed in Manus province in an attempt to curb law and order issues. The ban, which was initially enforced following instructions from the Provincial Executive Council for a 6-month trial period last year, has now been extended for another 6 months into this year. However, despite the ban, the province has seen an increase in alcohol-related law and order problems.
This decision was made to decrease law and order problems in the province and encourage alcohol consumers to drink responsibly. However, despite the ban, alcohol-related accidents are still claiming innocent lives, such as the recent death of a 50-year-old mother who succumbed to injuries she sustained when the vehicle she was traveling in overturned under the control of a drunk driver. Other high-profile alcohol-related casualties include the controversial case of 21-year-old Raymond Sipaun, who died after allegedly being beaten by mobile squad officers in public view for being drunk, and 17-year-old Kisawen Pokas, who was run over and killed by an allegedly drunk mobile squad officer while walking home from school. Lorengau Provincial Police Commander Alex Drassal says this is because youths are still sourcing illegal homebrew and liquor from 3 PEC-authorized outlets in the province. He says police have now been tasked by the PEC to take a more stringent approach in monitoring and addressing the issue. Lorengau Harborside Hotel and Siedler Bay Hotel in Lorengau and the Officers' Mess at Lonbroom Naval Base are the only 3 outlets authorized to sell liquor, and authorities have now cautioned these outlets to not allow alcohol out of the premises. PPC Drassal added that the Manus Governor, Charlie Benjamin, supports the ban and has pledged a hire vehicle to help police with logistics to enforce the ban. The PPC added that outlets not adhering to directions may lose their trading license, while homebrew manufacturers and consumers could face up to 24 months in prison as per the maximum sentence if found guilty. Vanessa Knight, National EMTV News.
Banning the sale and consumption of alcohol in Port Moresby is not an option, as it will only result in the increase of homebrew production and consumption. This may also result in the increased number of alcohol-related accidents and emergencies. These were some of the points raised by NCD Governor Paris Parker, who was one of the guests at the launch of SP Brewery's Drink Responsibly campaign this afternoon.
Stakeholders involved in the responsible drinking campaign were at the launch at Parliament State Function Room. Leading the campaign is the country's biggest alcohol brewer, SP Brewery. Chief Executive Officer Stan Joyce said 1 million kina was allocated to carry out the campaign.
In every country of the world where we practice, a percentage of our income is actually earmarked every year for responsible consumption education.
With PNG to host international events such as the 2015 Pacific Games and the 2018 APEC meeting, the campaign is timely to ensure citizens are responsible when consuming alcohol.
And also around the country to come on board, to join this campaign, to become responsible drinkers, to consume with dignity and not to let their families down and their relatives down.
If people don't drink responsible, then there is issues. And I think this then takes a new step and a new direction to how we should conduct ourselves when drinking.
The campaign sends out a bold message to consumers to think twice before they purchase and consume alcohol. It also creates an awareness on the consequences of a careless alcohol consumer. Re-emphasizing this message was the National Health Department Secretary, Pasco Kase, who stressed that the campaign was in line with the age-old saying, prevention is better than cure.
People don't behave in consuming alcohol and other beverages, and then they turn up in public hospitals and consume a lot of resources which are not planned for those kind of injuries.
SB Brewery's Keep Your Cool, Don't Drink Like a Fool campaign is part of its social and community obligation aimed at promoting and raising awareness on responsible alcohol consumption. The campaign will be televised on EMTV starting tomorrow. Bridget Komatep, National EMTV News.
Pangu Party parliamentary leader Sam Basil has completed the party's campaign trail for the Pomio by-election. The party has nominated Leo Katal as its candidate for the Pomio open seat. The seat was left vacant after former member Paul Tienston was imprisoned for misappropriating public funds. Voting is expected to start this Saturday.
Parliamentary leader and deputy opposition leader Sam Basil covered Pomio electorate in West New Britain province, campaigning for the party's candidate, visiting all 6 local level governments in the district. The Pangu Party team started off from Sinivit and covered villages along the north coast and back into central inland Pomio. The member for Bulolo used the opportunity to spell out the party's policies, mentioning skills training, community empowerment, business and economic development, as well as Pangu's initiative to hold its members of parliament accountable to the party and the voters.
Vote by next month. Now by number 8 day, community of God, you must have yourself. You must sit down. Now you must have a finish. One man by you give him 1. 1 man by you give him 2. Now 1 man by you give him 3.
The leader also announced that for the first time, the party will have a written agreement with its election candidates to be physically present in the electorate for 70% of the term in parliament. Other plans he is undertaking are to coach newcomers to help formulate and prioritize development programs for respective districts. The PNG Electoral Commission has 3.6 million kina funding allocation for Pomio by-elections, and polling is expected to run from the 9th of May to the 22nd of May. Writs for the Pomio by-election will be returned before the 11th of June. Michelle Amba, National EMTV News.
West New Britain Governor Sasindan Muthuvel has lashed out at government ministers making commitments when visiting provinces. He says many commitments were made publicly were not honoured, leaving people questioning local provincial leaders. Governor Muthuvel wants leaders to think seriously about this.
The province, before they make any commitment, think twice, think carefully, because I've seen many incidences, senior ministers coming and making a commitment and giving a false hope. After they leave, there is nothing happens. That is really frustrating, and I feel so guilty and helpless, when I invite ministers. And, I really appeal to those senior ministers, please do not commit if you cannot honor, because as a leader, you have to honor your word with your actions. And if you cannot honor your word with your actions, please do not commit, because this is really damaging, because we are on the ground and, we get attacked because of all these commitments.
National Health Services Deputy Secretary Dr. Paisen Dakulala says dental setups are non-existent at major hospitals in Papua New Guinea. He says most dental facilities have deteriorated over the years, some to the point where they have closed down. His comments come following an increase in oral diseases in the country.
Statistics of oral cancer in PNG has remained high since the turn of the century. A survey released by the United Nations organization states that PNG is ranked first in the world, with more people dying from oral cancer. Secretary Dakulala, when addressing pregnant mothers on the significance of oral health, highlighted the difficulty people in rural areas face in accessing dental services.
Here we may be fortunate and privileged because we have access to some of those facilities that can give us the sort of support that we need, at least the basics. But in the peripheral settings, right down in the districts and even right down in the most peripheral settings, that's a big challenge.
Common dental cases reported to hospitals and dental clinics include tooth decay, swollen or infected gums, and painful toothaches that require filling or removal of tooth. As a way forward, Dakulala announced that the standard plans were compiled by the Health Department for provincial clinics right across the country
and he challenged provincial governments to partner with the department in addressing dental health at provincial levels.
And so we look forward to the District Development Authority to see how this will also come in and help us to set in place the standards from level 1 to level 7, how we can accommodate the dental needs of this country.
Dakulala said the challenge now for the health department is to simultaneously strengthen the oral health services and rehabilitate the dental facilities that have deteriorated over the years. He believed if the dental services reach rural communities, it could minimize the high oral cancer rate in the country. Tekla Gunga, National EMTV News.
And we continue with National EMTV News after these short messages. Stay with us. Good to have you back with National EMTV News. Chairman of the Special Parliamentary Committee looking into service delivery has expressed anger over delay in the completion of a theatre facility for Kaveng Hospital. Bira Kimisopa was taken to the site as part of a fact-finding mission into health service delivery in 5 provinces. Doctors have been forced to set up a temporary operating theatre in the hospital's labour ward.
This is a building that should have been completed in May last year. The completion delay has been due to a funding shortfall of 1.5 million kina. When members of the Special Parliamentary Committee on Service Delivery visited the facility, they were told of how surgeries were being done in the hospital's labour ward. It drew anger from the committee chairman, Bira Kimisopa.
It just appears to me that the whole system of funding just broke down from Waigani all the way down to New Ireland province. And I mean, look, the health department is solely responsible.
This is just one of the many problems faced by New Ireland province. There are serious funding delays affecting the workings of the administration. The province still has not received its 2015 recurrent budget funding, and that in itself is a breach of the law. Kaveng Hospital's Director of Medical Services, Dr. Mackley Matthew, says conducting surgeries in the labour ward is bad for staff morale and patient care.
The complexity is they have to prepare the linens and operating equipments in this old theatre and then run to there to operate. So it's because there's no rooms there to actually house everything. So
it's about a year now since the project has come on and has not been complete. We have about 75% complete.
This is just one item on a long list of complaints that have been passed on to the committee. While patients in New Ireland come seeking treatment, the health system itself is in need of a cure. Scott Wide, National EMTV News.
A national policy will be introduced to have sign language as Papua New Guinea's 4th official language. The country's largest special education network, Kalan Services, will have a publication on sign language to accompany the policy. Kalan has over 20 centres around the country providing special education for children with special needs. PNG's deaf population has been missing out on services because of the communication barrier. The policy will be tabled in Parliament later this year.
Organizations like the Kalang Services have provided services to the younger age group of the deaf population for more than 2 decades. It has established its special education center at Geru Stage 6 in the nation's capital. However, little is known about the center. Kalang is one of the only 4 institutions which provide special education for school-aged children in the country. Michael Lulu is the project coordinator for Kalang's National Hearing Project and says many deaf are missing out on services only because of communication.
One of the big projects that we are developing now in the country is the Papua New Guinea Sign Language book. As you can see, these deaf students communicating here, they're using the sign language that we have. So we have developed signs now, Papua New Guinea context, for all our deaf people in the country to use. So
this communication barrier is being addressed with the help of the government and partners like Kalang itself to introduce a policy to have sign language as an official language.
In the country nowadays, you will see that a lot of our deaf people are missing out in services because they cannot understand or communicate, especially if a deaf person goes to the doctor, it will be very difficult for him to communicate with the doctor and say, I have this type of sickness or misik. But
A greater challenge now is to have qualified sign language interpreters at all basic government service providers like education, health and courts. This will be of significance to deaf students like Valerie and Geraldine, two sisters who are clients of Kalang's Special Education School Integration Program. They make up the 500 deaf students that have gone through Kalang's Special Education Program. Valerie and Geraldine are one of the many success stories and are currently doing grade 6 at Ward Street Primary School in Port Moresby. These sisters have been scoring excellent grades in school because they have the same teacher since 3rd grade. Michael says there is an even greater challenge waiting ahead as they progress higher. For now, it's easier for Geraldine and Valerie because they're in primary school. But as they move further into secondary school, classroom learning will be difficult for the both. And that is one of the concerns that has been raised by Kalang Services to have interpreters in classrooms. Michelle Amba, National EMTV News.
A review by the Independent Consumer and Competition Commission in 2009 has identified key challenges faced by the real estate industry. It also set recommendations and implementation strategies to address housing problems currently being faced in the country. Yesterday, the ICCC held a workshop to discuss the formulation of the draft codes of conduct for the real estate and residential building sectors.
The review covered a wide range of issues relating to the housing and real estate industry in the country. There was a heated discussion yesterday by ICCC and real estate industry stakeholders from a workshop held at the National Research Institute in Port Moresby. Housing shortages and rental rates were not part of the discussion yesterday, as a report was already presented to the government. Following the request of then Treasury and Finance Minister Peter O'Neill to address the critical shortage of housing PNG was facing and fostering the growth of the real estate industry and the national economy, a comprehensive review of the industry was conducted by ICCC in 2009. Upon completion in 2010, reports were compiled, and only this year the preliminary draft of the Code of Conduct for the industry was released for comments from the government and stakeholders. One of the recommendations was in relation to the consumer protection aspect. Currently, there are no regulative governing laws to enforce in the real estate industry. The industry is pushing for ICCC to develop new governing laws for them and their consumers' interests. Vasinata Yama, National EMTV News.
And now we take a look at the finance news. The Kina closed unchanged at $0.3705 in the interbank market. At Bank South Pacific, our Kina was fetching $0.3630 $0.4524 Australian dollars, 0.316 euro and 42.92 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, coffee, cocoa and gold closed the day lower, while copper closed the day higher. Palm oil closed higher as well, while crude oil and copper closed the day lower. And finally, on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 48 points lower, the ASX closed at 38 points lower, and the All Ordinaries closed at 45 points lower as well. The National EMTV News continues with more local news as well as international updates when we come back. Stay with us. Welcome back to the news. Prime Minister Peter O'Neill this afternoon announced that Cabinet has removed Gari Baki as Police Commissioner and replaced him with former Police Commissioner Gari Baki. This follows a lack of command and control within the police hierarchy. EMTV's Tekla Gunga has more.
The decision was made by Prime Minister Peter O'Neill at 5 this afternoon in front of Cabinet Ministers, including the Police Minister Robert Atiafa.
That is why we feel that the change of command is necessary to ensuring that we make sure that we display the best for Papua New Guinea when these international events do take place.
In what the Prime Minister described as not satisfying, this includes the investigations into the Hanwabada killings and the continuous ill behaviors of police officers experienced in recent months. The Prime Minister said there was lack of communication between the offices of the Commissioner and the Police Minister. He said this is not healthy because PNG will be hosting major events like the Pacific Games in July and the 2018 APEC Summit. The Prime Minister said the government needs someone who can reinstall the public confidence in police. He said the government needs someone who can reinstall the public confidence in police.
This decision has not been taken lightly. We see the morale of the police force under decline, lack of command and control, continuous disciplinary issues about behavior of policemen and women.
Prime Minister Peter O'Neill said the appointment of the new Police Commissioner, Gari Baki, is as effective as of today. Takla Gunga, National EMTV News.
Hakudae High School in Buka in the autonomous region of Bougainville is facing a shortage of curriculum resource materials for both teachers and its students. Head teacher John Irako told EMTV News in Buka the shortage is affected by the increased enrollment this year. EMTV's Fabian Hakalitz has more on this report.
4 years ago, Hakudae High School began its first intake and has survived since then. However, with the increased enrollment came the shortage of curriculum resource materials for both teachers and students. The school's ratio is 7 teachers to 140 students, 3 grades 9 and 2 grade 10 classes. Mr. Irako pointed out under the tuition pre-fee policy, 50% to be used in purchasing curriculum materials. But this has not worked well due to shortfalls paid by the national government.
We gave them out at the beginning of last time and it's all gone. At the moment we are actually buying things ourselves.
The TFF policy has affected many schools, says Mr. Irako, not providing adequate resource materials for quality teaching and learning. Teachers' housing is also one main problem. Only 4 teachers are accommodated while 3 others travel from home.
We're planning to build 2 houses, right? 2 staff houses. And one is completed and the other one is will be under construction by maybe next week.
Despite these challenges, Mr. Irako said the community continues to support the administration in developing the school to its standard. Fabian Hakalitz, National EMTV News.
Poultry industry experts say Papua New Guinea chickens are better than those coming from the Australian and New Zealand markets. 2 months ago, a ban was put on imported uncooked chickens from Australia. Today, an international certification was awarded to New Guinea table birds, recognizing its quality poultry products. EMTV's Bethany Harriman has more from this report in Lae.
In April, a ban was issued by Agricultural Minister Tommy Tomskol on poultry products coming from Australia. The ban was aimed at protecting Papua New Guinea's poultry industry from diseases. The country's poultry experts argued that the industry is in its infancy and needs protection.
Prime Minister and the Minister and the government to work to improve and increase the quality and quantity of our chicken products in this country. This is a great opportunity for the poultry industry that we have been waiting for, and we have the capacity to increase and improve our production.
Today, more evidence showed that the poultry industry is developing. New Guinea table birds received an international certification that will reassure consumers in the domestic market that the chicken being produced by the company meets overseas standards.
What it does, it gives the customer confidence, and when they buy a table bird's chicken, that they know that it's come from a quality assured process.
New Guinea table birds poultry manager David Drummond says the certification, known as the ISO 20000, doesn't mean that the company will export frozen chickens overseas.
To export frozen chicken, it costs us a lot of money for freight, where we can fit 10,000 day-old chickens in one aircraft and ship them to Southeast Asia and on the day of hatch. So they'll be 1 day old when they arrive in Southeast Asia.
The growth of the poultry industry means more employment opportunities and spin-off businesses for Papua New Guineans. The government is supporting the industry, and it has called on PNG's poultry heavyweights to invest back into PNG's economy.
We've been able to show that we can be at the level and above the level of Australian factories. So it's a huge attainment for the group and a credit to the teams.
The man that imposed the ban on Australian chickens, Agriculture Minister Tommy Tomskol, was at the certification today.
And the government is supporting this industry to grow this industry as a local industry. I urge you to invest into the industry.
The government is creating incubation spaces for industries to grow. The ban is aimed at creating that incubation space for the poultry industry. Bethany Harriman, National EMTV News, Lae.
The PNG Red Cross Society will commemorate World Red Cross and World Red Crescent Day tomorrow. Every year, the PNG Red Cross Society joins the movements around the world to commemorate the 8th of May. Different activities have been lined up for the commemoration, including a float parade and a fundraising dinner tomorrow. In the lead up to the big day, the PNG Red Cross shared some gifts with education partners in Port Moresby yesterday. The gifts, in the form of learning materials, will help the selected schools in their educational programs. The gifts were donated to PNG Red Cross Society from its Korean partner.
Leading up event to the World Red Cross and Red Crescent Day, which is on Friday, which we will celebrate. We think that we should also share these donations with other schools or special education centers.
Turning overseas now, 4 men were sentenced to death yesterday and 8 others imprisoned over the death of an Afghanistan woman who was falsely accused of burning a Quran. She was brutally beaten to death by a crowd of men. The killing caused protests against religious extremists in Afghanistan. EMTV's Alana Lay has more on this report.
27-year-old Farkunda suffered at the hands of an angry mob that brutally beat and kicked her to her death after she was falsely accused of burning a Quran, Islam's holy book. Her body was set on fire and dumped into the Kabul River as police reportedly looked on. Despite justice being served, some of Kabul's community believe there is a long way to go in achieving gender equality.
The real criminals are still free, and I don't believe that it was a fair and free trial. Announcing the death penalty or imprisoning or letting free most of these people was a very hasty decision.
8 defendants were jailed for 16 years, with 18 others found not guilty due to lack of evidence. The man who falsely accused Farkunda of burning a Quran was one of the 4 sentenced to death. He was the caretaker of a Muslim shrine. 19 police officers are also on trial for standing by and not acting to stop the violence.
According to Article 39 of the Criminal Code and considering Article 22 of the Elimination of Violence Against Women law, each one of you 4 people are sentenced to the death penalty.
Global attention was similarly drawn to Papua New Guinea in 2013 when 20-year-old Haugen woman Kepari Leniata was brutally tortured and burnt alive in front of a church for allegedly practicing sorcery. Alana Lay, EMTV World News.
That report wraps up our news bulletin tonight, but we've got Trukai Sports coming up next, and I'll be back with all your sporting action after these short messages. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. The Oil Search Pacific Games relay was jam-packed with runners in Western New Britain upon arrival in Kimbe yesterday. The relay commenced at the New Britain oil palm and was run by children and staff across the oil palm plantations, through the nurseries and around the largest of their 6 oil mills at Kumbonga. EMTV's Lorraine Genia has all the highlights.
On Tuesday, the Oil Search Baton relay arrived in Kimbe, West New Britain, to a small crowd on the tarmac, All Search representative Ruth Warapet passed the baton as she stepped out the Air Niugini plane to Governor Sasindran Muthaville, who carried it from the tarmac with the local Sing Sing group in support. The baton left the airport via convoy on its way to a photo shoot at the Hoskins Secondary School to finish the day. The following morning, it all started early in Musso Park. 4 Sing Sing groups, 1 plantation dance group, all entertained the crowd and each had a chance to dance with the baton. The New Britain palm oil leg of the relay began soon after, taking off from the international school. More school kids followed, plus representatives from the local church and NBPOL staff. All ran with huge crowds and youth running alongside. Here's a look at the highlights. The baton was run into the NBPOL mill where staff lined the entrance for a look and feel of the baton before being taken through the nursery, then into the plantation as its journey continued. After lunch, the Kimbe side of the relay took place, starting from Kimbe International Primary School. Joshua started the relay with over 60 more kids to follow, each due to run 100 yards before passing on to the next 2 runners. The relay spent most of the afternoon running through and around Kimbe town. The All Search baton relay continues as it heads underwater for a dive at Walindi. Lorraine Genia, National, EMTV Sports.
Well, the PNG Palais have begun their selection process for the 2015 Pacific Games, having named a 19-member squad recently. Amelia Cook has become an irreplaceable half, being named in the squad to again lead the girls to victory at the Games. Given their improvements over the last 12 months, the Palais could have a good chance at making it to the medal qualifiers.
The PNG Palais have been in training since their return from Hong Kong and are looking to build a structured team for the Pacific Games. New inclusions to the team should cause very little to no instability as the majority come from players of seniority. Kimli Rapilla has made a rapid comeback from an ankle injury, while Dulcie Bamai, Trisilla Rema, Cassandra Sampson, Menda Epat, Patricia Harricknen and PNG's speedster on the wing, Joanna Lagona, have all made the cut. Amelia Cook will join the team shortly for Palais camp in the coming weeks. The first week of training camp will be inclusive of the wider train-on squad and will begin on the 10th of May and run for a week at the PNG IPA Institute, while the second and final camp will be held in the last week of June, where a final 15-member team will be selected for the Games. Lorraine Genia, National, EMTV Sports.
Trukai Sports continues with more sporting action. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports.
Good to have you back with Trukai Sports. This weekend, the Telecom National Soccer League season will feature the washout matches that will be played at the Bomana CIS grounds here in Port Moresby. Admiralty FC will face Francis Moyas boys from Madang, and Hekari will be playing against FC Port Moresby, which is set to be a thriller this weekend. MTV's Elijah Levet has more on this report.
The Telecom National Soccer League ended their round matches last weekend. It was a top-of-the-table clash between Hekari and Lake City Dwellers at the Bomana CIS grounds. Hekari proved too good for Dwellers, taking out the minor premiership this season. This weekend will feature the washout matches between Admiralty FC and Madang, and Hekari and FC Port Moresby. If FC Port Moresby conquer Hekari, they would be in third place behind Hekari and Lake City Dwellers. FC Port Moresby, coming out victorious in last weekend's round 14 matches against Oro FC, will try to capitalize on the win and give a good game to the minor premiers. This weekend is set for another thrilling round of the NSL. Admiralty, currently sitting closely behind Madang FC and FC Port Moresby, could also find themselves in the third position depending on this weekend's match. Madang FC could also see themselves sitting comfortably in the third position on the NSL points ladder after this weekend. With the finals coming up, teams will be fighting for a spot in the top 4. Elijah Levet, National, EMTV Sports.
This year's AFL season in Port Moresby will be conducted in 3 different venues respectively. Due to the construction of Bissini Parade, the seniors competition will be held at the University of Papua New Guinea Ovals. Both the secondary, school and junior competition will be held at Taurama and Murray Barracks AFL Ovals respectively. 10 men's and 6 women teams are registered to compete for this year's premiership titles.
Despite the delay in securing a venue to conduct its annual season, the Port Moresby Easy Loan AFL Premiership will kick off round 1 this weekend. The University of Papua New Guinea AFL Oval will host the senior competition this weekend after a successful pre-season. The secondary school's AFL competition returns this year and will be staged at the Taurama Barracks AFL Oval, with the junior competition to enter round 6 at the Murray Barracks Oval. 10 men's teams are registered for the men's senior and reserve grades, while 6 teams will compete in the women's division. Taurama Suns, University Tigers, Lamana Dockers and Gordon's Kokofas are deemed favourites in this year's season in both the men's and women's division. However, underdogs Gulf Giants and Central Bombers are sure to shake up the competition. Scholar Sengi, National, EMTV Sports.
One of Bougainville's tools for negotiating peace and reconciliation was through sports, and the Lontis Soccer Association in Buka, North Bougainville, adopted this concept to unite families and create a peaceful community. EMTV's Fabian Hakelitz has more.
Sports for reconciliation was one concept that united Bougainvilleans after the Civil War. Community leaders of Lontis and Haku constituency of Buka adopted this concept and chose to start a soccer competition to create a brighter future and restore law and order. We spoke to soccer official Gerard Nippon.
Sample leader long community. Or even think long making all boy all young plan. Busy, especially lo time in open got sports lo here. Now only been work long busy one time all activities where even attract him all na even cost come up him plenty heavy long community. Then only been thinking long kirap him soccer long community. That was long November long 2014.
Leaders are impressed with the youth because since the competition kicked off, it has produced a positive future. More advocacies for a safe and healthy community will be dialogued. Nippon said the future of soccer at Lontis looks promising, with some raw talent identified.
I strongly believe also by me here Lontis by plenty of representative lo Lontis by representing Haku long all sample tournament suppose all display program long all soccer throughout lo island it come up.
Fabian Hakelitz, National EMTV Sports.
Meanwhile, the Lontis Soccer Association has paid tribute to one of Bougainville's die-hard soccer fan, the late Joseph Maineke. Official Gerald Nippon said the late Maineke contributed well to the formation of soccer in the autonomous region of Bougainville, developing it to its current standard. Mr. Maineke was heavily involved in the discussion of the FIFA Academy School at Manieta, Central Bougainville.
We work long make him play name soccer lo Bougainville. We work long reach him level and stop long. And mine ke we been one man who's been work long travel him all get a hub long Bougainville come finish lo Haku too long hold him all short courses long all referees now all coaches all coaching one even work long leading yet all teams. All squad, you go out representing Bougainville.
Well, that wraps up our sports segment tonight. Coming up next, the weather details. Stay tuned for that.
True Kai Sports. True Kai Sports.
Looking at the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow in southern region, cloudy weather with rain periods expected in Port Moresby and Alatau, rain periods in Poponeta, cloudy periods with patchy rain expected in Daru, and Karama to look forward to brief evening showers. In Momase, brief showers expected in Ley City, few showers in Wewak and Vanimore, and in Madang, brief evening showers. In the New Guinea Islands, showers plus rain expected in Kavieng, Kokopo and Buka. Brief showers in Lorengau. Squally showers plus rain expected in Kimbe. In the Highlands region, Goroka and Kundiawa to anticipate brief showers, then morning fog. Mostly fine, then morning fog expected in Mendi and Wabeg. Forecast for small ships, waters of southern PNG Indonesian border through Torres Strait, Daru, Kiwai Island to Karama, Yule Island to Hood Point to Samarai Island, through to Cape Vogel, Finschhafen, New Island to New Britain and Bougainville, seas of 0.5 meters to 1.5 meters, waters of eastern and western Milne Bay Islands, seas of 1.5 to 2.5 meters, and waters of Manus and its western group of islands, Finschhafen, including Vitia Strait, Siasi Islands, through to Long Island, west of Long Island to Madang, Bogia to Wewak, Aitape, and the northern PNG Indonesian border, seas of 0.5 meters to 1.3 meters. Ocean forecast for PNG areas: Coral Sea, seas slight to moderate with southeast winds at 10 to 20 knots. Solomon Sea, seas moderate to rather rough with southerly winds at 15 to 25 knots. Bismarck Sea, seas slight to moderate with south to northeast winds at 10 to 20 knots. And lastly, Pacific Ocean, seas slight with southwest winds at 10 to 15 knots. Before we go, as always, recapping our top stories again tonight. NEC reappoints Gari Baki as Police Commissioner. Also, increase in alcohol-related problems in Manus despite the liquor ban. And Basil campaigns for candidates in the Pomio by-election. Well, that's how we wrap up the bulletin this Thursday. From the news team, as always, I'm Tokana Hasavi. Thanks heaps for your company. You take care and stay safe. Good night.